entering a natural mystic zone. No penny them I never walk alone. Ancestors better them a natural mystic zone. Blessed enough to know I never walk alone. Stay rising.
Greetings, one and all. How you all doing? I thought I'd do another little reaction video. Welcome to my channel. I am Natural Mystic. I am bouncing back, although it says something different on the screen. We will just edit that. That's not what it's supposed to say, is it? So I just wanted to say, how are you all doing? How have you been? If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, why not? I'm very disappointed. It's free. And you see some of my amazing personality on here and some of the strange things that I get up to as somebody who lives alone. So what I've decided to do is something popped up in my feed, and I thought, yeah, let's watch it together, basically. So without further ado, here we go. Well, eventually, here we go. Oh, Lord of mercy. Technical glitch. My mouse has decided it doesn't want to work. There we go. Alright.
Cannabis. A multi-billion-dollar industry is moving from the illicit market into our daily lives, creating a stark divide.
In a country where people are talking about its medical use, someone gets arrested for cannabis every 58 seconds.
A plant demonized to arrest millions, now marketed as a medicine.
My son had a devastating form of epilepsy, and a cannabis compound gave him a life.
How does the vast array of chemicals in cannabis engage a mysterious system in our bodies?
The cannabinoid receptor is the most abundant receptor in the brain.
How a single system can influence so many biological processes is surprising.
Will regular, even daily use cure us or hurt us?
If someone were to tell me that I was dependent on marijuana, I would have said, no way, absolutely not.
Smoked, dabbed, vaped, and eaten, today's cannabis is hyperpotent and far from understood.
These products are coming online much faster than we can actually research them.
As federal law blocks science, an unintended public health experiment is underway.
Really, the questions are, for what conditions is it beneficial and for what conditions is it harmful? It's not black and white, and it's complicated.
What's the right dose? Who should use cannabis? Who shouldn't?
It is a highly contentious subject, but it's not about your personal thoughts or feelings. What does the data tell us? What does the science tell us? Truth through science. We should know the answers.
The Cannabis Question, right now on Nova.
Okay, just a quick one. I'm a smoker. I'll put it out there. I've preferred things from like years ago, not like what's out here now, I'll be honest. And I do feel as if that there are some healing benefits or some benefits to partaking in cannabis. Whether I don't think smoking is the best way if you mix it with tobacco, purely because of the nicotine element and tar and that sort of stuff and the other chemicals that are found in tobacco. Eating, again, sort of, purifying the oils, inhaling, vaping. There are different ways without toxins, and I would say there's a lot to look at in regards to how it's grown, where it's grown, and why it's grown. Okay, so I haven't watched this documentary. This is this. I think I'll do this a part one because the documentary is quite long. So yeah, let's. I'll just bring that. Yeah. So yeah, we'll crack on, and I'll do this as a part one because this documentary is nearly an hour long, and maybe a couple of parts depending on how I feel. See what detail it goes into and whether it raises more questions than it does answers. All right. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy it.
More than 80 years after America ended one type of prohibition, it's ending another. The majority of people now live in a state where cannabis is legal. As a multi-billion-dollar industry rises, our country is at a crossroads.
Cannabis is genuinely one of the most fascinating discussion topics I've ever seen because of how emotionally polarizing it is amongst people. And it's very strange because the entire field of cannabis science is very poorly developed. There's not been a lot of research and there's a lot of things that we don't understand. And yet, what we have in society is groups of people that very fervently believe it is this panacea that can cure any disease that exists, or it's the devil's grass and it's going to cause the downfall of society. Not recognizing that the reality of cannabis is somewhere in the middle.
Credit to PBS. Just want to put that out there. Yeah, links in the bottom.
Americans everywhere are turning to cannabis, seeking relief from a wide range of ailments, including veterans like Sean Worsley, who uses cannabis to treat his post-traumatic stress disorder caused by combat in Iraq.
Our sole purpose was to clear the routes for supply convoys that came through, looking for roadside bombs that were on the route. I was on a mission and we rode over a hole that was in the center of the road, and unfortunately it was a IED that went off, knocking me unconscious. And when I woke up, the medic was in my face asking me, was I okay? Could I hear him?
After his tour, Sean struggled with a traumatic brain injury and disturbing symptoms caused by PTSD.
For me, it's paranoia, insomnia, seeing things that aren't necessarily there. Shadow people, as they call them. Night terrors, dreams, but these nightmares were very realistic. If I was shot in the dream, I would wake up grabbing my chest because I felt the pain.
Sean's medications for PTSD had troubling side effects, so he got a medical cannabis card.
Cannabis at a low dose can help reduce anxiety, relax someone, and individuals who have PTSD that newly initiate cannabis use report it being life-changing. So I can sleep for the first time in 2 years, and I can go to the grocery store without being so intense and on edge. That's why individuals with PTSD heavily gravitate towards cannabis use.
For thousands of years, humans have cultivated cannabis for its fiber, seeds, and medicinal properties. Ancient Hindu texts claim it was brought by the god Shiva for the pleasure of humanity. The plant contains over 400 chemicals, including cannabinoids, which are most abundant in the resin glands of budding female plants. In the 1960s, Israeli scientist Raphael Mechoulam isolated THC, the psychoactive cannabinoid that makes users feel high. The discovery launched a new chapter in neuroscience.
Cannabis opened the window into the functioning of our body. Completely unexpected window, because what
Sorry, I didn't mean to pause it there, but I just really wanted to say something in regards to the isolation of THC. I'm sure there are lots of videos on how to do it. It's not a very hard process, in all honesty, but it's interesting where that process took place, is all I have to say on that, and who discovered it and why. We'll do some further research in regards to some of the scientists' names that are mentioned, some of the researchers, and we'll go a little bit deeper. So this is just maybe the first layer. I think it's wise, or maybe as I mature, to actually discover and research and do sort of, go and look for information in regards to things that I've done for a really long time and not questioned it. Foods, smoking, attitudes, behaviors, just several different things. And I think for me personally, yep, smoking has contributed to me feeling better about certain things in my life. Yeah, I've had some issues. I'm sure we all have, and I'm not saying that I'm condoning or condemning in either which way. This is just a disclaimer that I'm putting out there, that I am not promoting the uses of anything that you may see in this review, this reaction, this video that I'm showing here. So yeah, it's more for my personal interest and something that you all may find interesting as my audience as well. And then you can go away and do further research for yourself. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there for the screeners, for the haters, for, the people that monitor this type of stuff. I'm not a monetized channel, but it would be nice to have a few more subscribers. So back we go to the video.
was discovered was that THC binds to receptors in the brain and outside the brain. And when it does so, when it binds to these receptors, the cells now behave differently.
Cannabinoid receptors, named after cannabis, are found on nearly every organ in the body. They bind with our own cannabis-like molecules called endocannabinoids, which regulate functions like sleep, cognition, memory, and mood. Unlike other brain chemicals, they travel backwards across the synapse, where they control the release of most neurotransmitters.
One of the most amazing things that happened was the discovery of the endocannabinoid system. Every mammal has one, and this is a system of chemicals and receptors throughout the brain and body. And really, the primary goal of the endocannabinoid system is homeostasis, keeping things in balance.
At Mount Sinai Hospital, neuroscientist Yasmin Hurd remembers the first time she looked for cannabinoid receptors in the human brain. Seen here in vivid red, orange, and yellow colors.
I'm sorry that I keep on pausing, but it's just really interesting. There's words in this that I haven't heard before, and it's refreshing. May I see, that it's also Black History Month here in the UK, and there happens to be a woman of colour, a black woman, a Nubian, a melanated woman, as a researcher. I hope that's actually her rather than a model, but we'll proceed and we shall find out.
The cannabinoid receptor is the most abundant receptor in the brain. When we looked at where these receptors were expressed, they're expressed in brain regions relevant for motor coordination, cognition, memory, emotional regulation, reward. All of these brain areas are key to so many normal behaviors, obviously, but also psychiatric disorders as well.
A key role of the endocannabinoid system is to manage stress. In fact, the first endocannabinoid found in our body was given a Sanskrit name, anandamide, meaning bliss.
In response to stress, our body mobilizes an endocannabinoid signal. And so if something aversive happens to us and we suddenly see a threat in front of us, our body kind of goes into high alert mode and we shoot up. Once we've been removed from that threat, though, our body needs to turn that stress response back off. And what we have learned is that this burst of endocannabinoids that occurs in response to stress is really critical for that recovery phase.
Scientists suspect this signal goes awry in people with PTSD. And that's why THC, which mimics our own endocannabinoids, might help.
And so when you look at individuals that have PTSD and use cannabis, in short-term trials, you see very beneficial outcomes. But if all they do is use cannabis and they don't engage in other behavior therapies to help work through their trauma, they're not treating the root cause of the disorder. And it's important to recognize that THC at higher doses increases anxiety.
Cannabis is not a miracle. Nothing is a miracle. And so really the questions are, for what conditions is it beneficial, and for what conditions is it harmful, and for whom is it beneficial, and for whom is it harmful? So it's shades of gray. It's not black and white, and it's complicated.
In 1996, cannabis was legalized in California for medical use. But federally, it remains a Schedule I drug, like heroin, making research difficult and leaving patients like Elizabeth Pinkham on their own. To cope with her cancer treatments, Elizabeth has turned to cannabis.
When you go through chemotherapy, there are side effects that can be like nauseousness. You may have lots of appetite. You may have difficulty sleeping. So I was looking for something that wasn't another big, heavy-duty pharmaceutical.
On display, one can find cannabis-infused teas, sodas, candies, bath salts, psychoactive body washes, and flour with THC that can ease nausea when smoked.
The effects are pretty immediate. I've definitely gotten my appetite back a little bit more. It also helps with neuropathy, which is like the numbness in your fingers and your toes.
This is super medicinal. You see how like dark and dense that is? Mm-hmm. That's indicating more of the indica family. Good for the body, good for pain.
My staff needs to do the best that they can to try and guide people to the products that are going to serve them the best. But my staff, they're not trained doctors. And really, we should have cannabis medicine being taught in every single medical school across the United States. And that's not happening now because of federal law.
Sorry, just in case you didn't really pick up there. So there's indica and there's Shiva. Those are the two main sort of forms, breeds, strains. And I have been led to believe, but I do maybe trust the source of information, that all kind of other types of cannabis / marijuana have derived from either a Shiva or an indica, combined, separated, crossbred, flavored with other things now. And I do believe that, I'm sorry to keep saying it's just because I'm trying to like word things really properly here. This is not scripted, this is a proper reaction. It's like back in the day, I used to hear names of like Redbeard, Thai, Sensimania. We used to have like the black pepper, and then it was like a really light green, tough, like hard compressed, and then there's kind of African weeds, and then there's weed from Afghan and hashish, and there's a whole array of different types of sort of weed, cannabis, herbs, if that's what you want to call it, basically. Yeah, there's a lot out there. It's a massive market now. I'm in the UK. It's not legal in the UK at all. It doesn't come in those pretty little bottles that you just saw all pre-rolled. We don't go and get it in jars and stand in shops looking at it and seeing how much THC it is or how dense it is or the colour of it. No. Over here in the UK, if you get caught with a minimal amount, you can be charged, prosecuted, fined, depending on how many times you're caught with it. You can even do jail, prison time, community service. It goes on your record. Therefore, if you need to go for any security checks over here, we call it a DBS disclosure form, so like a criminal disclosure form. If you've ever been in trouble, it will pop up, so it can affect your employment going forward. It can affect university. It can affect a lot of things in life. So for something that is now being used for healing or to cure and to ease tension, and I'm sure there's a lot of that, and the increase over the last 18 months with everything that's been going on, I would say that that's why there has been a lot of change in a lot of countries in regards to the legalities of it. I personally believe that in the UK, it's something that should be decriminalised. I think that alcohol and cigarettes themselves, excuse me, yeah, I think that alcohol and cigarettes themselves are probably more damaging. They're costing our National Health Service a lot more in regards to taking care of people from the effects, I would say, of alcohol and nicotine, whether that be at a young age due to children, passive smoking, asthma, that sort of thing. As you get older, you get CPOD, which is coughing and shortness of breath, and the throat tightens, not to mention cancer of the throat, cancer of the lungs, and all of the other chemicals and things that are in tobacco that can create issues in the body. So alcohol, liver issues, spleen, accidents, people driving, violence comes with it, so there's an array of things that comes with stuff that has been legalized. And I do believe that marijuana may actually maybe counteract some of those things. I do believe it's dependent on the individual. I do believe it's dependent on the environment. I also believe it's dependent on who you start smoking with initially. Now, I say that to say this, is that I grew up, like I said, in a household where Rastafari was like a holy sacrament, a form of meditation. It wasn't looked at as a drug. It was just looked at a way of maybe sleeping better, eating better, and also like going within self to kind of go into those deeper thoughts, maybe ask yourself deeper questions, and more than what's just the meaning of life. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of positivity that I see personally around it in regards to how it can make one feel. So I'm torn in regards to, like I said, the legalities, the criminalities of it. I think it is dependent on who you smoke with, when you start smoking, what you smoke. And I personally also don't believe it, I don't feel, I don't see it myself as a gateway drug. And that's what a lot of people will say, is that it leads to other things. I've personally partaked in smoking since I was a teenager. I've never tried anything else other than cannabis or marijuana or hashish or ganja, whatever you want to call it. I've never been tempted. Some days you get good stuff, some days you get not so good stuff. Do you know what I mean? It swings and roundabouts. I know with alcohol it's regulated, so if you're getting a certain volume percentage of alcohol, that's what you're going to get in every bottle. I get at cigarettes the same amount of nicotine, same amount of tar that you're going to get in that brand, in that packet. So in regards to the regulating of the strength or the strain, and again, who smokes it, where they smoke it, why they smoke it, I think there are questions, but again, those questions aren't asked in regards to smoking cigarettes or alcohol. And like I said before, those two things predominantly There are other things, but I'm not going to mention those, that they are more damaging to the system, self, society as a whole. So we'll press on with what they've got to say. Without me babbling on, waiting for me mouse to work, basically. Bring it back to life.
It's really a vulgar approved quote unquote medicine. So people say, oh, there's medical cannabis that's approved. It has not been. It has not gone through FDA rigorous research process. And that's what's critical for medicine.
I think it would be great if there was a bit more science behind this. But I think in the meantime, you have to do what works for you. And you have to figure this out as you go.
Sorry, I just need to interject, and I'm also apologising. Basically, I don't always think that things need to be regulated. I don't always trust science as a whole. There are pockets of science that I have had to use over the years that have been there for a long time, and we have a certain element of, I suppose, trust in that sense, if you want to use that word. Personally, the side effects that come with taking certain medicines, I think, are just as damaging or more so damaging. Nature doesn't get things wrong, and I think this is where I now have like this debate with myself, is that marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it, it grows naturally. It's not something that we had to interfere with or tamper with, and due to the interference of man or woman or mankind, if you're humans, we looked for bigger, better, as in volume, quality, taste, how potentially high it gets you, and that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So nature had already done that, and we intervened. So I do believe that if we was actually to stop intervening as much and let nature do its thing, then there would be less concern over the strains and the strength and the way that it would affect people. And like I said, I think smoking is the most damaging way and probably the least most effective way of using it. I think eating, vaping, and extracting the oils and that sort of thing is probably a lot more beneficial because it's more pure, it's cleaner, and it's not kind of inhibited by bits of paper and tobacco, basically. So that's just my stance on that. So like I said, I won't make this very long. It's been nearly half an hour. Excuse me. We'll watch a bit more of this and then we'll see where it takes us and then we'll wrap it up shortly. All right. Thank you for staying with me, for those of you doing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
But it's challenging. Scientists aren't sure whether cannabis sativa, indica, and ruderalis are distinct species. Most cultivars grown today are hybrids. They have distinct chemicals called terpenes, which create flavors and smells. And in addition to THC, the plant contains over 100 other cannabinoids. One, called CBD, is flooding the market.
1 in 7 adults in the United States are using CBD. You see CBD everywhere. You see it in the pet stores. You see it at Bed Bath & Beyond, at Whole Foods. And so there's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's built on this plant. And there are all these different hypotheses of what these different chemicals can do to help us. But these products are coming online much faster than we can actually research them.
Despite CBD's availability today, it took a group of determined parents to bring it to market. One quest began in Palo Alto, California, where Stanford neuroscientist Katherine Jacobson set out to treat her son Ben's epilepsy.
Watching your child have a seizure is really, really scary. It's awful, right? It's awful because you know that brain damage is happening. The kids get scared, they get confused. And with uncontrolled epilepsy, we all live with this fear that they're going to die.
About a third of epilepsy patients don't respond to medications. Katherine knew the longer Ben's seizures continued, the less likely they'd be controlled.
Could you just give him medicine?
Mm-hmm. And she was not alone. In Berkeley, California, her her friends Fred Vogelstein and Evelyn Newsenbaum also felt powerless to control their son Sam's epilepsy.
I mean, the thing about seizures that most people don't realize is that there are dozens of different kinds. So the kind of seizure that most people know about are the grand mal seizures, where you just lie on the ground and like start flopping. The other seizure that a lot of people know about are staring spells. Sam had a version of those seizures because he would go unconscious for like 15 seconds.
When anyone has a seizure, you could compare it to an electrical storm or an overtaxed electrical grid. We all have electricity in our brains. And when someone has a seizure, the electricity becomes irregular.
Every single drug we tried didn't control his seizures, and some of them had pretty nasty side effects.
One time he had hallucinations and thought he had holes in his skin and there were bugs crawling out of them. I thought we were going to have to take him to the psych ward.
And then there were all the medicines that made him a zombie.
Then they stumbled across research suggesting cannabis might quell seizures.
I knew nothing about cannabis, but I did some research and I found out that obviously there are many different chemicals in cannabis. The two most prominent are CBD and THC. We know that THC makes people high. CBD doesn't do that.
Ready?
And so my preference was, of course, to try CBD first.
CBD doesn't bind to cannabinoid receptors directly, but its presence seems to reduce the impact of THC. It also increases levels of anandamide, our bliss molecule, and interacts with receptors like serotonin, which affect our mood. Yet in 2011, it was hard to find extracts high in CBD.
And so we would get these vials, and sometimes they would work a little bit, and then the next vial wouldn't work. So after probably 6 to 8 months of doing this and seeing no benefit to Ben, I just said, look, I'm going to make my own.
When Sam first took Catherine Jacobson's CBD tincture, it was clear as day his seizures were going down immediately. Unfortunately, Catherine only had enough for 5 days. And so we had this incredible 5-day stretch, and then we ran out.
CBD also helped Catherine's son, Ben. But her next batch of tinctures were too weak to use.
Drug companies get a lot of abuse for their marketing tactics. But the one thing that they do really, really well is they make every pill exactly the same.
It's sanitized, it's quality controlled, and I wanted that for my son.
Then they heard about an English company called GW Pharmaceuticals.
All right, so we're only 20 minutes in because I actually spoke. So we're going to call this the end of part 1, and then we're going to continue looking into this UK factory. That's funny. That's really funny, considering it's not legal. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. For medicinal purposes, which we will technically not benefit from in this country, whether financially or even health-wise. Health is wealth. Okay, so yes, this is part 1. I'm really, really interested in regards to, what it is that they're actually going to try and do. I think it needs to be something that's global. I don't just think that it's something that the USA should benefit from. We are all valuable people one way or another. So yeah, this is the end of part 1 of the review, of the reaction, of the commentary, of my opinions, of my experiences as well, my feelings and my thoughts. And I was actually watching, let's have a look, make sure we name them in the video. It's called The Cannabis Question, and it's on the PBS channel on YouTube, and I've dropped the link below in the description box. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope, like I said, you found it as informative as I did. And yeah, if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, if you like this sort of upload video, vlog, reaction type thing, and the content in regards to what it is I'm actually reacting about, something that I feel like is important to me, never know, might be important to some of you. So like I said, I'll be going into more detail in regards to the scientists, in regards to the, you know, like I said, even just this factory alone, I think maybe even finding some footage on here, some videos and stuff. So thank you once again for subscribing. I am Natural Mystic. I am bouncing back. I hope you are too. And we outie. Peace.
You're entering a natural mystic zone. No penny them I never walk alone. Ancestors better them a natural mystic zone. Blessed enough to know